What's up, GameLeapers? I'm Panther, and today we're going to be taking a deep look into RENEKTON, how to master this champion. If after this video you're not satisfied and want even more content, then make sure you go ahead and check out our website. Over at GameLeap.com, we've got hundreds of guides covering just about everything that you could possibly want to know in order to improve your gameplay. Make sure you're clicking that link in the description so that you can join up with us and level up your gameplay. For those of you who don't know me, I have been one of the highest rated RENEKTON mains in the world for the past 7 years, and am largely regarded as probably the best RENEKTON main in the West. Today we're going to be exploring the art of RENEKTON, and of course there is absolutely no better place to start than the early lane phase. RENEKTON is a lane bully, this much is undeniable. However, we need to make sure that we're not getting ahead of ourselves and trying to trade too early on in the lane phase. It's important to remember that early levels, RENEKTON is not that strong. You don't want to be taking level 1 trades against champions that are going to all-in you straight from level 1. RENEKTON's abilities scale really well with levels and with items, so that means that he is incredibly weak at level 1 and has almost nothing going for him. So absolutely do not fight unless you know for a fact that you can get a kill level 1. Your starting spell 90% of the time is going to be, of course, Q. Only take E if you really need to play safely or if you're heavily outranged by the enemy top laner. There are some RENEKTON players that say that starting W can have its merits, but personally I don't think that there is ever a reason to start W. Always start either Q or E. If you've done a successful job of stacking Fury with your Q level 1, then you do have the possibility of looking for a level 2 all-in. You have an absolutely massive amount of damage at level 2 with an empowered W, Ignite, and Q. A lot of the time, you're actually going to be able to catch the enemy top laner off guard just by flashing on them with empowered W, Ignite, and Q to snag yourself some kills early on into the game. This won't always work, but it is something that you should always be thinking about in every single game because it is one of RENEKTON's classic plays. Because of this, it's also very important to know that level 2 is going to happen on the first melee minion of the second wave. This means if you're being given access to the wave at level 1, you want to be slowly building Fury with your auto attacks and with your Q, and then you want to make sure that you have enough Fury for 50 Fury W when that auto attack on that 7th creep happens that will pop level 2 for you. You can then immediately level up W and look for an all-in if they are in kill range. Now, if they're not in kill range, then you're going to want to take E instead and just go for short trades with an empowered Q. This is going to allow you to continue taking chunks off of the enemy laner while remaining safe, having that E in case you get ganked. If you are not able to find the level 2 all-in, that is completely okay. You are still able to look for the level 3 all-in. It is the same exact idea as a level 2 all-in, it just happens on level 3 instead with all 3 of your abilities. Still, incredible burst with empowered W, this time you just have your E mixed in as well. Level 3 is going to happen as the second melee minion on the 3rd wave dies. Now again, just like at level 2, you're going to want to try and make sure that you have 50 Fury when you pop level 3 so you can immediately perform the trade. And you don't have to wait to build up a little bit more Fury after popping level 3. You can catch people off guard a lot of the time. They may not expect you to hit level 3 or level 2, and that is what you're using as an advantage to perform beneficial trades for you. Now, the higher you climb, the less often this is going to work because enemy top laners are going to keep track of what minion you're on, and they're going to know that you're going to hit level 2 or level 3 soon, and they'll just back up. But it is always worth looking for because sometimes people just get lazy or they count wrong. Even in Diamond or Master games, I'm still able to find level 2 and level 3 all-ins frequently, and this is what is allowing me to build my lead in the first place. All it takes is me seeing one mistake from the enemy laner before I completely take over the lane and choke them out of the game entirely. That is why it is important to practice this setup as much as you can. Anytime you're able to walk away with a kill in the first 5 minutes of the game, you are in control of the game. This means that you get to determine everything that happens in your lane phase, and you are in the driver's seat of the game. You're the one that's going to be able to carry. Anytime I see a RENEKTON miss out on a kill in the first 3 to 4 minutes of the game, it pains me. A little part of my soul dies because you're missing so much of that champion's potential by missing this. Just to reiterate, we're going to be playing slow and controlled for the first level. You don't want any all-ins level 1, you just want Fury. When level 2 happens, try to have 50 Fury and look for an all-in if possible. If not, just look for small pokey trades and rebuild that Fury to look for a level 3 all-in. Now, for the rest of the early lane phase, you need to make sure that you are paying attention to two things. Number 1 is going to be Fury management, and number 2 is going to be wave management. These two things go hand in hand. In order to have good Fury management, you need to have good wave management. If you don't have minions available to hit, then you don't have anything to help you generate Fury. Because of this, the way that I look at minions is a walking clump of potential Fury. I know that hitting a full wave of minions with my Q is going to get me to my empowered ability way faster than if I had been fighting outside of the wave. For this reason, I'm always constantly looking to see what the wave is doing so I can control exactly what I want to do with it. If I need to quickly generate Fury because I have none and I haven't had access to the wave, then I'm going to allow the wave to push into me. That way, the amount of minions in that wave are going to stack up and I have more minions to hit for more Fury. If I'm the one pushing, then I'm going to make sure that I'm quickly auto-attacking those minions to generate as much Fury as possible, so then once the wave crashes into the enemy tower, I can potentially look for a dive or maybe zone the enemy laner off of EXP. With a good Fury empowered trade, I'm able to set up a dive very easily, and once Renekton hits level 6, his dives are absolutely terrifying. Now there will certainly be some times where you're not able to pull off the dive alone, but if your jungler were there to help you, then you would be able to pull off a dive. And whenever I see that happen, I'm always immediately spam pinging that I'm setting up a dive to my jungler. You want to do this 30 seconds ahead of time. It's also important to note that one ping is oftentimes not enough. Sometimes when I'm coaching, I'll say, okay, ping the dive so that your jungler comes, and then they'll just ping once. No, you want to ping, on my way, on my way, on my way. Target the enemy champion. You want to make sure that your jungler is getting the message that you really want to dive. One ping may not be noticed, but 6 absolutely will be. Now, when you are performing a dive with your jungler, you're always going to want to try to be the one to tank first, because first of all, you have your stun that's going to lock down the enemy top laner, so your jungler can land all of their abilities without you having to worry about them missing anything. Now, second is all the survivability in your kit. You have extra HP from your ultimate and your Q, as well as 2 dashes in the form of your E. This means you can tank more tower shots, and you can also just get out of the tower aggro much faster. It's less risky to perform a dive with Renekton tanking than most other junglers in the game, unless they have a way to de-aggro as well. If all has gone well up until this point, you want to make sure that you are utilizing the lead that you have. If you're able to dive the enemy top laner, that means you can probably also just fight them 1v1 behind their tower during a proxy. Now, this is a very high risk, high reward place. We need to make sure that we're actually setting up properly to get away with this without being immediately punished, giving down shutdown gold, and then allowing your top laner back into the lane phase. The best way to do this is immediately after either forcing a base or getting a kill, pushing up, proxying the next wave, and dropping a ward in that brush on Krugs. This is going to tell you when the jungler is either nearby on Krugs, or if the enemy top laner is looking to avoid you and walk around to make your proxy completely useless. It is an absolutely necessary ward to have if you are going to proxy, and I do not recommend that you try and proxy without any vision, because that is how disasters happen. Now, if you're on the other side, you have a few options as to where you want to put that ward. You can either put it in Tribrush right above Gromp, or you can put it in between Gromp, Blue, and Wolves. These are the two most highly trafficked areas in terms of the jungler when they're coming to gank your lane during a proxy. I personally like the deeper ward just under Blue above Wolves, but ultimately it's going to come down to personal preference, and whatever you feel is safest is what you're going to use. Remember, when you are performing a proxy, you want to make sure that you're using your empowered Q to keep you sustained. You don't want to be dropping 400 HP to one wave of minions. You want to quickly and efficiently clear the wave, but you also want to make sure that you're not using all of your Fury, right? So typically what I do is I look to generate 100 Fury, and then I'll use that 100 Fury to clear the wave. That's going to heal me up a lot. It's going to kill the minions very quickly, and it's going to allow me to actually still have Fury in case somebody comes while my Q is on cooldown. The biggest mistake when I see people trying to replicate my playstyle is they'll use all of their Fury on that wave while they're proxying, and then the enemy top laner can just fight them or walk right past them. You want to make sure that you have plenty of Fury to both clear the wave and deal with the enemy top laner. If the enemy top laner isn't nearby and there isn't a wave to clear, then you want to walk into the enemy jungle. The idea of performing a proxy is you want to pull as much pressure to you as possible, but you also want to try and deny as many resources as you can. So walking into the enemy jungle is going to do both of those things. You can see what camps are up and you can take those camps. And if the enemy jungler sees you walking into their jungle, they're not going to be happy about that. If they think they can kill you, they'll walk towards you. That pulls pressure away from your teammates. This doesn't mean that you want to fight them in the jungle. If you see anybody coming towards you, you can just back up if you think you can't take the fight. You just want to make sure that you're utilizing the lead that you have to create pressure on the map. As a top laner, nobody wants to have an 0-15 bot lane, but one way you can help your feeding bot lane is by just making everyone come top. Remember that your bot lane is going to find it incredibly hard to feed if there's nobody down there to feed kills to. Now, I will typically continue to proxy until up to around 14 minutes. For all you clever kiddos out there, you're going to know that 14 minutes is when tower plating is going to fall. So let's talk about how we can be efficient with our tower plating. So first of all, we're going to absolutely, positively want to get as much tower plating as possible. That much is obvious. However, we also want to make sure that the tower stays up for as long as possible. And this is for a few reasons. First of all, when you take the tower, your wave pushes faster than the enemy wave, and that means you're going to lose minions. This is inherently bad. You're going to miss out on anywhere from 1 to 2 minions every maybe 2 or 3 waves, and that is going to add up. Eventually, it's going to add up to a kill. So you want to delay that for as long as possible if you are absolutely min-maxing your economy, which you should be. Second of all, it's going to give access to the enemy top laner's minions. If the enemy top lane tower falls, that means that your minions are then going to walk way further up to the lane, all the way to that tier 2 top lane. That means that the enemy top laner is going to be able to farm them. You may be pretty terrifying, but you're probably not terrifying enough to dive somebody on a tier 2 and completely deny them from any EXP or gold. The longer the tier 1 stays up, the longer you're going to be able to proxy and completely deny the enemy top laner from any gold or EXP. This allows you to create a larger and larger lead much better than just taking the tower and pushing the wave to the next tower. For these reasons, if I have a large enough lead to proxy, I'm always just going to let the minions auto the tower. Anytime I see that a plate is about to fall, I'll walk into range, grab that plate, continue to proxy. Once the tower falls, then I look to pressure the jungle more. When doing a good job of this, you should get all of the plates, but you should also deny more golden EXP than if you had taken the plates sooner. Now, let's finally talk about mid and late game. Mid and late game is when Renekton is an absolute monster. A lot of people have the misconception that Renekton is only an early game champion, and while yes, he can absolutely create leads in the early game, mid and late game is where he shines. No, this is not some sort of sad joke. You heard me correctly. Renekton shines in the late game. The reason why is because of his side lane potential. There are very, very few champions in the game that can actually side lane against a full build and properly built Renekton. We'll definitely get to the build later, but first I want to talk about mid game. Mid game is your opportunity to look for picks in the side lane. It's very low risk because it can't be punished with Baron before it spawns, and a lot of the time, even before 25 minutes, they cannot punish you with Baron. Most teams cannot shred Baron until after 25 minutes, so in between 15 and 25 minutes, you have an absolute playground at your hands. You can do whatever you want in the side lanes. Anytime somebody matches you, you can look for solo kills and you can look for picks in the enemy jungle. This is where Renekton's build is going to come into play. So often, I see Renekton players building the wrong items. Now I know when you watch LCS, You see Renekton players building Tank Bruiser, but remember that these guys are in a full 5-man squad. They always play with their teammates. They know they can trust them to carry, and that is not the scenario that you are in. You're playing solo queue. You cannot rely on teammates to carry. You need to be the carry. Climbing is going to be far more consistent when you take things into your own hands, and for that reason, in solo queue, we're going to be building Prowler's Claw and Blade of the Ruined King always in every game. This is the highest damage 2-item combo that you can find on Renekton. Now, if you want, you can stop there and just go for tanky bruiser items like Black Cleaver, Death Dance, Maw, GA, etc. That is completely fine. You'll still be able to do what you need to do in the side lane for the most part. You can 1v1 people. But if you want to make sure that you kill absolutely anything that ever shows its face in your side lane, you should be building Cyrilda's Grudge third. This is where Renekton's skill cap really comes into play. Cyrilda's Grudge is absolutely amazing on Renekton. However, it makes him so much harder to play because, first of all, you don't have as much HP or any defensive stats from Cyrilda's for that matter, and second of all, it adds a completely new aspect to Renekton's kit. You see, Cyrilda's Grudge slows an enemy for 30% anytime you damage them with an ability, and Renekton's ultimate is an ability that ticks for 15 seconds, which means you will permanently apply a 30-second slow for 15 seconds straight. Now, this is not entirely useful for sticking onto people because most of the time you don't have problems sticking onto people because you're just going to one-shot them. No, what this allows you to do is it allows you to actually create space in between you and other melees. It allows you to kite out without them being able to auto-attack you for your spells. Once your cooldowns come back up, then you're able to again drop another combo and probably get another kill. For this reason, Prowler's Claw, Blade of the Ruined King, and Cyrilda's Grudge are always my go-to first 3 items, and then I'll either finish it off with a Death Dance and a Maw, or a Death Dance and a GA, or some combination of those last 3 items. If your side lane target has more than 200 armor, then you can look for a Cleaver. This is because Renekton's specific build makes you able to remove up to 200 armor if you're utilizing all of the armor shred in his kit and that you can buy from the shop. Otherwise, Black Cleaver doesn't usually have a place in this specific build. When late game comes around and everyone is full build, you want to make sure that you're utilizing your insane 1v1 potential to its fullest. Go to the side lane and start pressuring when you have the opportunity to. Now, you don't want to be pushing up completely blind when nobody else is even on the map. That is just going to get you killed. Wait for your team to start pushing up as well, and then you pressure at the same time. You can spam ping to help your teammates figure out what they should be doing and where they should be going, but make sure that they're either set up in a lane or doing the Baron when you're getting 3-man. Always play opposite to them, and if multiple people come to your lane and you can't just walk away, try to trade 1-for-1. If the enemy team is looking to pressure Baron, then they're going to be forced into either a 4v4 at Baron, which is definitely not a good thing, or a 5v4 at Baron, which is still not great, while you are able to have free reign on those towers. With a heavy AD build, you're going to be able to absolutely melt them, and if they mess up at Baron, you can probably end the game. The key is you need to make sure that you are not at all afraid in that side lane. If something matches you and you're full build, kill it. The only things that you should be struggling to kill are Jax and Fiora. If you're playing against these characters, then in the late game, just group with your team and look for an objective with them instead. If you are able to employ this strategy on Renekton, I guarantee you're going to be walking around with 60+% win rate on the character, which is absolutely fantastic. Just for a quick recap of the things we covered. We want to be looking for that level 2 or level 3 all in early on into the game. Look for dives level 6 and ping your jungler if you need that help. Moving on into the mid game, you want to make sure that you are proxying and denying as much gold and EXP from the enemy top laner in order to create that lead for yourself. This is going to make you an absolute terror in the side lane, and absolutely nothing should be able to side lane against you, meaning you can continue to pressure in the mid and late game. When played properly, absolutely nothing will be able to match you, and you're going to be able to solo carry so many of your games, hopefully getting you that sweet 60% win rate on Renekton. That's all that I have for you for today's video. As always, I'm Panther. I hope you learned something valuable, and I will see you in the next video.